I'm actually never going to admit to you if this is true or not. But what I will tell you is that every single one of you has influence on the inside of you. Whether you think so or not, whether you feel ordinary or you feel extraordinary, whether you feel seen or unseen, every single one of us has influence on the inside of us. God has given us this powerful gift of influence, and we are responsible for it. When He knit us together in our mother's womb, He made us with seeds of influence. He's given this gift to everyone, men and women, young and old. We all have influence. Look at your neighbor and say, we have influence. And as women, we are natural influencers. Do you know that? It just spills out of us. That's why the saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't no one happy, is so true, because we have influence. Companies market specifically to us, as we just saw, because they know that we are the ones that are going to go to Target, and we are the ones that are going to decide what products to come into our home. They know that you are the one that has influence on what we're going to eat, what we're going to do, where we're going to go, what activities the kids are going to be involved in. We have so much influence, yet we have reduced it down to something that is for the few. We've taken away the power that we have every single day. And my goal for tonight is to help you understand the power of your influence, and that you would begin to take back what the enemy has stolen from you. I hope that you'll redeem what you have squandered, and maybe you'll begin to wake up to the fact that you don't have to wait for a following or a little blue check beside your name or a certain title, but you realize, I have power that I'm responsible for. And that's why I've titled tonight's message, Don't Waste Your Influence. You see, the very first influencer did not have a big following at all. At the very beginning of creation, influence was in Eve. And even though she may not have been aware of it or how to manage it, I'll tell you who was aware of Eve's influence: the enemy. Satan came to separate man from God. He came to bring sin into the picture. Satan knew that this girl that had just arrived on the scene was going to cause him a whole lot of trouble if he didn't get a hold of her influence first. You know, the serpent, he could have talked to anyone. He could have talked to a giraffe to get him to influence Adam. He could have gone straight to Adam himself. But the enemy knew that neither of those methods would be effective. He knew that if I want to get into the ear of Adam, I'm going to have to go to the influencer. I'm going to go to the one that has his ear in a way that's different than anybody else. I'm going to go to the one that is able to say things to him that nobody else could say. And I'm going to go to the one that when she speaks, he just says, okay, sure. This is not a put down on men. I love men. I have a lot of men in my house. I love men who lead strong and lead well in their families. So this is not saying that they are weak or that we can manipulate our husbands. But because of their love for us, we can influence them. We can speak into them. We have this special ability to communicate with them in a way that they will respond to. Eve could say things to Adam that he would listen to because of their relationship. And the enemy knew this. He knew that I can't go straight to Adam, because if I do, maybe his ego will rise up and push back against it. But if I stir up Eve, then I can get to Adam and get him to do the thing that I want him to do, and this will mess up the whole creation deal. And ever since the beginning of Genesis, the enemy has known that the power that you have, whether you have realized it or not, he knows the power that you have. You bring life through your womb, and you birth children, and you raise them, and you nurture them, and that's a whole lot of influence. He knows the power that you have over the people around you to effortlessly gather. There's something about this gift in women. I mean, look at us tonight. We have gathered as women. And you probably came because someone invited you. If it weren't for women, could you imagine how different the holiday seasons would look? There would be no Thanksgiving. Men would be like, why ruin a really good sports day with relatives? Or what about Christmas? There'd be no present, no tree, no beautiful Christmas card that you yelled at your kids at seconds before they took and you all smiled. Because we have influence and we gather people. You know, I've never been with a group of guys and one says, I need to use the restroom, and another says, I'll go with you. But us girls, we go to the toilet together and we don't see any need to stop our conversation while we're doing our business. We gather, we nurture, we have influence, and the enemy wants to steal, squander, taint your influence however he can. The enemy also knows that because we do have this gift of influence, he knows that where you go, you don't go alone. Wherever you go, you carry whatever is on you. You know, guys can go out and watch a movie or go to a game, and when it's over, they say, that was good, and they leave. But us girls, when we gather together, we talk about everybody and everything. We talk about how everyone's kids are and what we're going to do for the holidays. We discuss weird things happening to our body and where to get the best waxing job at, what we're going to eat afterwards, and what we're going to have for breakfast the next day. We discuss everything, and we might have only been together for an hour, but we've had 37 topics we've discussed, which is an awesome gift. But it's something that we need to be aware of because the enemy knows that if he can get stuff on you, it won't just stay on you. It's like a contagious disease because you are an influencer. The enemy wants to get something on you that will affect the way that you behave, the way that you respond and act and speak, because then you can be someone that carries his disease wherever you go. I know this is a girls' event, so I hesitated doing this for a lot of reasons, but I'm going to ask for a little help from some special guys in my life. So, boys, can you make your way up here? Could you all welcome my 3 sons? This is dangerous because we practiced last night, and based on how that went, I threatened them. So I don't actually know how this is going to go, but just hold on to those. Welcome Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Actually, Reese, wave at all the ladies. Oliver, who you probably know. And then Grant. These are my boys. Now, in our home with these boys, you could probably imagine that there are a variety of different smells at any given time. And in our family, we would all agree that the owner of most of these smells is Oliver. Let's step up here. It's not for the reason that you would think. You see, Oliver is really into hygiene and looking good and smelling good, so he loves cologne. The problem is he has a Gucci budget with a Walmart, or a Gucci taste with a Walmart budget. And he did want me to tell you, I've never bought cologne from Walmart. He steals it from his father. But here's what happens. When Oliver sprays himself with his daily scent, guys, I don't bite. Come up with mommy. Ouch. When Oliver sprays himself with his daily scent, it doesn't just stay on him. It travels with him through our house. It lingers after he's left. Anything, including me, that he has touched will now smell of his scent. And you know, this is how it can play out in our life, in our day-to-day life. Grant, you're gonna oh goodness gracious. Okay. Grant, you're gonna be my helper, right? Grant here, he's gonna wake up one morning and think, I'm ready to have a good day. But you see, we did not practice this well. Scoot back here, guys. But you see, the enemy, he doesn't want you to have a good day. right? So Grant, he's getting up and he's like, I'm putting on love and joy, peace, patience. But then Satan and all his little minions get together and they say, no. We're not going to let that happen. What are you doing up here, boy? Okay. So as Grant starts to walk through his day, we just squirt on him, strife, bitterness, anger, jealousy. All of those things. We just spray it on him. It doesn't matter that Grant's already picked the scent that he wants to wear because he knows that as you walk through your day, whatever it gets on you, you will keep and carry it with you. Okay. You boys are going to be back here mopping this tomorrow. All right. Go ahead and clean up this mess, please. Oliver, help. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you've already picked the scent that you want to wear for the day. Whatever gets on you, you will keep it and carry with you. You can get up in the morning with praise coming from your mouth, but by midday, be cursing. Then whatever you put on at midday is what you take with you to the school pickup. And what you carry home from the school pickup is what you're going to take to the dinner table. And it's what you're going to take to bed, and so on and so on. The enemy's goal is to put things on you that he knows will affect all of those around you. Maybe you got up this morning and you were thinking, I'm so excited because it's Radiant Day. And you said, I can't wait for all that God has for me. Holy, 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 Jesus. Let's go get some blessed assurance. And your day started to go on, and all the plans you made yesterday to make today go smoothly started to fall apart. And it probably wasn't your fault. It was probably your husband's. Maybe you told him 3 simple things that you needed. Maybe you said, leave work early, feed the kids dinner, and keep them entertained so I can easily leave, or whatever it was. You communicated it. You had a conversation. You talked about it multiple times, as women do. And you head off for work this morning, and maybe the day was a little bit crazy, and you were like, that's okay. It's Radiant Day, and, I know my husband knows what I need, so I just got to get through this day, and he's going to take everything, and it's going to be fine. And you walk through your door, and you're feeling a little frantic, a little frazzled just because you've carried some stuff home from work. And you start getting ready, and the time is ticking, and you start looking at your watch, and you start thinking, where is he? And it's getting later and later, and the kids are going a little bit bonkers by this point because they're hungry. So you have to stop what you're doing and take care of your kids, which you weren't planning to do. So now your frazzled has turned to agitated. And you start ripping open cupboards and bags of frozen chicken nuggets and slamming pans down and cutting up fruit and saying under your breath, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to be late for Radiant. It's only once a year, and we didn't even have it last year, so it's been once in 2 years. And I actually had to come home early, and get heated is one thing for me. I got to go to work this way, but that doesn't matter. And now you're trying to be fast because you haven't even curled your hair yet. So you swirl all the strawberries and the nuggets on the plate, and you're mumbling how nice it must be to have 0 responsibilities. Meanwhile, your kids are watching this, and they're like, we just want dinner. We don't want dad for dinner. We don't want mom screaming about dinner. We just want to eat because we're little. And you've already made up your mind that you're going to shoot out the door with not so much as a word when he comes in, because he needs to know that you are mad. And as soon as he walks in and you hustle to walk out, you hear your 6-year-old say, oh, Dad, boy, are you in trouble. You screwed up. You ruined Mom's plans. We can never count on you. And suddenly you start to understand, hang on a minute, I have influence. What was on me is now on my 6-year-olds, And that was nothing that she ever needed to carry. You know, we kind of laugh at that story, maybe because we can relate to it. Hopefully none of you threw chicken nuggets at your kids before coming tonight, but if you did, there's grace. But what about the less dramatic things that we do? You know, the things that seem harmless. Like the time that we gossiped about our friend with our other friends. Or the time you got your feelings hurt and you decided to just let everybody on social media know about it. Or that time that you and your girlfriend got together and you just had to get some stuff off your chest, so it ended up being, I'll diss my husband, you diss your husband, we'll both feel better at the end of this. Can you start to see how this becomes toxic? It always starts with something so innocent. A comment here, an eye roll there, a miscommunication, and then it snowballs into something so much bigger. One of the biggest ways that the enemy will use his influence to pollute your life is through offense. I guarantee there isn't a woman in here tonight that could say she's never been offended. In fact, if I said, who is currently offended, which I won't because you might be sitting next to the person you're offended at, but if we could be honest and ask the question, who's been offended, who's living with offense, I know I'd have both hands and both legs, both feet up. Sorry. Offenses come. If you are offended, just know offenses come to all of our lives. This message has been stirring in my heart for months, and I believe that God wants me to give this message tonight because as women with influence for good, we've allowed us to rob us for too long. And when we don't deal with our offenses, it has the potential to destroy us. We spend far too much time wasting our influence with offense, and it's time that we take back the gift that God has given us. In our remaining time, I want us to dig into a story from the Bible. We're going to be in Mark chapter 6. So if you have a Bible, you can go ahead and make your way there. If not, the words are going to be on the screen. But this is the story of how John the Baptist lost his head. And wouldn't you know, the reason why he lost his head was because of an angry woman. It's okay. Just look straight ahead. We're going to make it through this. I'm going to start reading in Mark chapter 6, verse 17. And this is what it says. For Herod himself had given orders to have John arrested, and he had him bound and put in prison. He did this because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, whom he had married. For John had been saying to Herod, it is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife. So Herodias nursed a grudge against John and wanted to kill him, but she was not able to. Here we have John the Baptist thrown in jail because the king's wife was mad at him for calling out her sin. Let me say it more clearly. John was locked up because of a nagging woman that had influence. I wonder if every night when she went to bed with her husband, she would have to say it just one more time. If you loved me, you deal with that guy that's offended me. If you really cared about my feelings, you'd take care of that person that's hurt me. We could put this all behind us if you would just do something about John. I'm sure none of you have ever had these conversations before, but this woman was ticked off. She was mad at what John had been saying, and now she's speaking to a guy that has power, and she's saying, you better do something about this situation to keep moi happy. Let's pick back up in verse 19. It says, so Herodias nursed a grudge against John and wanted to kill him, but she was not able to, because Herod feared John and protected him, knowing him to be a righteous and holy man. Herod doesn't have an issue, and he knows that the hand of God is on John, so he shouldn't touch him, but his wife was constantly nagging and wouldn't let it alone. So to keep her quiet, he locked John up. Girls, is there anybody that's doing things in your world to simply keep you quiet? Is there someone doing things that they don't want to do just to make it so that they can get through another week or another day without hearing you nag about that situation. It says to quiet down his wife, Herod locks John up. Check out what happens next in verse 21. It says, finally, the opportune time came. On his birthday, Herod gave a banquet for his high officials and military commanders and the leading men of Galilee. When the daughter of Herodias came in and danced, she pleased Herod and his dinner guests. The king said to the girl, ask me for anything you want, and I'll give it to you. And he promised her with an oath, whatever you ask, I will give to you, up to half my kingdom. This young girl, not knowing what to ask for, did the only thing that she knew to do. She went and found her influencer. And in verse 24, it says, she went out to her mother, what shall I ask for? And without hesitation, the mother turns around and says, the head of John the Baptist. At once, the girl hurried into the king with the request, I want you to give me right now the head of John the Baptist on a platter. The king was greatly distressed, but because of his oath and his dinner guests, he did not want to refuse her. So he immediately sent an executioner with orders to bring John's head. The man went, beheaded John in the prison, and brought back his head on a platter. He presented it to the girl, and she gave it to her mother. This story should stop you in your tracks, because here is a picture of what your influence can do. Here's a picture of what happens when we don't deal with the things that the enemy has sprayed on us. Here's a picture of how we can waste our influence. In verse 19, it says that Herodias nursed a grudge. Can I have my one little prop, please? I don't know about you, but when I hear the word nursed, I think of a mom feeding her baby. And I have my baby here tonight. Thank you. Sweet little baby. Everyone see my baby? And I think that the Bible uses the word nursed a grudge to paint a picture of what happens when you allow an offense to come to your life. When you allow it to attach to you like a baby does to its mother, and you allow it to begin to suck off of you the life and your energy and your thoughts, it begins to take strength from you. It consumes every part of you. This woman didn't just have a grudge somewhere out there. It says that she began to nurse her grudge. What that tells me is that every day she'd feed her grudge just a little bit more. Every day she'd give it just a little bit more time of, holding here. Look this way, baby. A little bit more time of holding her baby and patting it, bouncing him, walking up and down the house, talking to him like he's such a cute little thing. And just like a real baby, every day as you nurse it, it will grow and grow. It will get bigger and it will get stronger. And as she nursed this grudge, it became a part of her. When she would set the table for dinner, she would set a spot for her daughter, for her husband. And of course, she'd set one for grudge baby. And over the dinner table, the grudge would be fed too. And when this married couple would go to bed at night and they would lay on the pillow, guess who was in between them? The grudge baby. It would be what they talked about. She would carry on nursing the grudge and say to her husband, I don't like that, John. You need to just figure this out. And all the while that she was doing that, the grudge was getting bigger and stronger. And it was in the influence of the home until finally the opportune time came for that thing to stop sucking and start speaking. Just as God creates opportunities, so does the enemy. He waits for the perfect storm where he can pull all of these elements together. The enemy wants the offense big enough and strong enough that it can do some damage. He wants you to feed it in private and in public. When you're with your girlfriends, when you're on social media, any conversation that you can bring the grudge baby to, he loves it. And if you feed it around other people that also have grudges, that's even better. You'll find yourself having grudge baby meetings. Meet me at Starbucks at 11. Bring your grudge. I'm bringing mine. We just had our 4-month checkup and we're growing beautifully. I'm holding this baby to show you that when you nurse a grudge or hold an offense, this is what it looks like to everyone around you. You can't see it, but everyone around you can see it. You think you're hiding it, but you're not. Everybody knows that you have attached to you a grudge. And everybody knows that where you go, this baby goes. Everybody knows that you're going to bring it for dinner. Everybody knows that it's going to be at the table. And that's why some people don't want to be around you anymore. Or they distance themselves. Or they stop following you because it's just too much. And while you're busy helping this thing grow, the enemy is just waiting for the opportune time to let it get up and speak. He wants to have the maximum potential to do the most damage. And here's the deal. You have to be careful because the enemy doesn't always come through the front door. He'll also come through the back door. You might think that you're cool and you're all right and you've got this thing under control, but what you don't realize is what you've been influencing. While you're so zoned in on nursing this grudge, you've not noticed what you've put on your daughter or your sister or your friend or that person that you do life with. And as they step up innocently into their moment, you better make sure that they're not carrying any of the suckers that you've given them to carry. That's what happened to the daughter in this story. She does this dance for the king, and the king loves it. And he says to her, you can have anything you want, up to half the kingdom. You know, we live in a time where God is saying to so many of us that you can have whatever you want, that you can reach nations that you've never dreamed of going to before. You can rescue children in Africa. You can go all over the world and make a difference. You can reach your community and turn it around and make a difference. You can turn poverty into prosperity. You can go into places where people are living in hell and bring them heaven. You can make a difference on this earth right now like no other generation has ever made before. The king says, you can have up to half the kingdom. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. But you must choose. What is it that you're going to ask for? And in a moment of hesitation, not knowing what she should ask, she turns to her influencer and says, help me out. And that was the opportune time for this baby to get up and speak. And it says, give me the head. Just imagine for a moment if that mother, if that influencer lived all her life at the dinner table talking about the good works that she wanted to do. Imagine if she had used her influence in her home and she had said, you know what I have on my heart? That we're going to turn our street around for Christ. That we'd be able to share the message of Jesus and see destinies changed. Imagine if she said, I'm really burdened that in our community there are people that don't have enough to eat. And we have so much. I wish there was something that we could do about it. Imagine if that's what she had nursed. Imagine if those were the conversations. If they had been, when the daughter turned to her mother, something else would have spoken. She would have said, baby girl, this is the moment that we've been waiting for. This is what we've been believing for. This is what we've been praying all these years, and today we have the opportunity to change some laws, to feed the people that have no food, to have some resources to share with those that are in need and put it to good use so that those that have been living outside of the community can be brought in. Today we get half of the kingdom to do something incredible. Imagine if that was the influence that this little girl was under. But sadly, all too often when the opportune time comes, it's the head we settle for when we could have had half the kingdom. And I have a question for you. When you get the head, what are you going to do with it? I mean, if you didn't like when it was on their shoulders, what are you going to do with it when it's on your wall? Some of us have trophy rooms of the heads of people that we've brought down. See that sister over there? I did that. That pastor down the road took care of him. See that person over there that betrayed me? Got my revenge. And we are settling in our smallness for the heads of people we don't even like when we could have had half the kingdom. I'm going to ask the worship team to come back up here. And in just a moment, they're going to lead us again in a time of worship. And as we prepare to go back into that, I want to ask you some things. I want to ask you, what hurt? What offense? What disappointment have you been nursing? What is the place where you feel like somehow you've been overlooked? Or you feel like nobody ever mentions you or celebrates you? Where is it? What is that offense? What is the thing that you've allowed to attach itself to you? As you begin to think about that, ask yourself this: do I really, truly want this thing attached to my life? Is this really worth holding on to? Do you want your kids and your kids' kids to have this, to waste up to half the kingdom? The daughter didn't want the head. That's why she gave it to the mother. The inheritance that this girl was supposed to get was not the mother's to squander. The inheritance was about a generation that would go and live and go further than her. The inheritance should have been about leaving a legacy. In order for her daughter to inherit a better future, she needed to move on from her offense. And if we're not careful, we will squander the next generation's inheritance on our old hang-ups that we're not through yet. And we will pass our baggage onto another generation. And we'll pass our offense about what so-and-so did and when so-and-so did it to another generation. And you know what? If that person hurt you and there's something truly there, how about we just take away its power and not let them hurt the next generation? Don't feed it in the next generation. Don't give it more airspace than it deserves. Ladies, what I'm trying to tell you tonight is it's time to drop the baby. Listen to me. In order for some of you to be free, that is exactly what you need to do. And I recognize that this is not an easy thing. It's not a one-time and done thing. It's a process. The enemy doesn't want you to drop the baby on the floor. And when you throw it down, do you know what that baby is going to do? It's going to say, pick me up, hold me, don't you love me, give me some attention. It's going to scream at you. And you are going to have to go through a process and be strong and say, I'm not feeding it anymore. You don't belong in this family. You are not a part of our inheritance. Today is the day for you to drop some babies, to say, I'm done, to say, I detach it, and I stop feeding it, and I stop giving it airtime, and I throw that sucker on the floor. And here's why. Because whenever your hands are busy holding a grudge, they can't be holding your inheritance. Whenever your hands are busy changing and feeding the offense, your hands can't hold the promise. And some of you are saying, God, give me the promise. And God is saying, I want to, but I will not dilute the promise. I will not infect the promise with the problem that you won't let go of. I won't let the two become cohabitators. You have to be willing to let go in order to take hold. And some of you are saying, but God, if I could just have the new thing now, then it would make it easier to let go of the old thing, because this has kind of become my security blanket. It's become the reason that I justify everything that I do. If I let go and I don't yet have the new thing, if I don't have the promise, if I don't have the breakthrough right away, then I'm going to be in this space in between and I'm going to feel confused. Yes, you are. But that's where you renew your mind. And that's where you start some new thinking. And that's where you go back to God, and that's where you repent, and that's where you change your life, and that's where you start to make some different decisions. That's where you praise him instead of being negative. That's where you start to say, I want half the kingdom. I don't want the baby anymore. I don't want to be that woman that's the problem. I want to be a woman of God that is free, that lives her life with her hands open to all that God has for her. Come on, if you are saved, today I drop the sucker that I'm not going to be that woman anymore. All across this room, would you just begin to lift your hands and even just throw your hands up to God like a sign that says, I get rid of it. I drop it. Those hurts, those offenses, those grudges, that wrong thinking, those are not mine anymore. I refuse to waste my influence. I want half the kingdom. Let's worship together.